Welcome to the big show.
He could go all the way. Oh, America! Are you serious? It is showtime, baby. Here we go. Slam, jam, slam, bam. It's for this. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. Move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. Give it up, go.
Welcome to the big show. Simply wait.
Breaks a couple of tackles. He could go all the way.
And welcome to Cold War Radio, ladies and gentlemen. Are you fired up like I am on a Friday night? Let's kick off this talk radio weekend with WHBJ. Welcome to Cold War Radio. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr., your host deep down in the broadcast bunker in the WHBJ studio in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Now let's shift to the Reykjavik server of the foreign desk of Cold War Radio, and welcome Radio Norway to the show. Hello, Norway.
Good evening, Hutch, and good evening to our lovely audience, the dregs of society, and all the rest of my fellow deplorables. I hope you're doing fine out there, and what a great intro. I love that one. Absolutely pumped up.
I don't even remember where I got it. I love it, too. I've used it for years, and the FCC hasn't banged down the door yet, but that's just because they don't know where I am. But anyway, I like it, too. Please follow me on Spreaker, ladies and gentlemen. Like the Facebook page, facebook.com/Cold War Radio. I said that like by heart. It's not even written in front of me. I wasn't going to say that anymore. But anyway, the email to the show is hutch@steelcityresistance.com. The Cold War Radio patron hotline, 412-206-6208. After the stream, the podcast will be available either tonight or tomorrow morning on Spreaker. That's just the way it rolls, ladies and gentlemen. We have to make some adjustments, but you can catch the show all over the place after that. iHeartRadio, the 405media.com, the Cold War Radio app, free in your app store. If you know anybody that has hearing problems, YouTube plays the program with captions. I'm going to have to look into that, too. I don't know if that auto shares anymore or not. We'll figure it out. Use the hashtag Cold War Radio on Twitter to get with like-minded audience members. And please go to SteelCityResistance.com where there's just everything you need for WHBJ or Cold War Radio. You can become a Cold War Radio patron in the right margin or subscribe on Subscribestar. You can check out the research room, which will give you all the ammunition you need to debate anybody on the left, or even some people that just aren't tuned into what's really going on. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. Contact your representative in D.C. at steelcityresistance.com. There are 2 buttons there, one for the House and one for the Senate, that will show you their social media handles. A very good tool, making it as easy as possible. And also the video page renamed to Video Page, with all the videos of most of our clips that we play on the program. If you'd like to send mail to the program, send it to Cold War Radio, P.O. Box 96022, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania 15226.
You are listening to Cold War Radio.
All right, let me talk a little bit about what I normally do in this portion of the program these days, about WHBJ. We've got some really great programming coming up. There's no question about that. We've been really blessed, and I want to thank all of our affiliates for all the hard work they do. I'm a little bit of a slave driver, and like, where's my file? Where's my file? Thank you for putting up with me, ladies and gentlemen, but I like to have this show running smoothly. Looking forward to the Smith Report NRN tonight. Waiting on that with bated breath. A good episode coming up. That's a great show that I'm planning on giving the 10 o'clock slot to all week. This is what I've been waiting for, kind of figuring out who has what material and locking in some slots so it doesn't look like it does right now. But we're getting there. There's no question. If you hear anything on there that you like, please contact the creators. We put together a pretty good management team. I got Rocky out in the West Coast. We had a long talk today. We got Mona out there making all kind of things happen. I'll talk about that in a second. And we've got great co-hosts. So there it is. The show is one thing. The station is another. A lot of moving parts, but it's fun, and I think it's going to be sustainable. I really do. We got a couple things we got to do, but we're getting very close to that. I want to thank Cajun Ken. I got your letter. That was a wonderful letter, and things like that make me keep on doing what I do. So thank you very much, Cajun, and I'm glad that you like the new lineup as well. Now, Norway, some things, you go to get a show ready, and you start looking. You've got this serious mindset because there's so many serious things going on out there. And then you come across these Democrats, man. I mean, you come across some things, and what I'm going to play right now has a lot to do with politics, but you're probably not going to see it right on the surface. I want to play this clip, and then I'm going to explain what happened. But this is on CNN, and you've got this guy, and he's kind of moderate. He's a governor, but he's got 2 strikes against him just on his name. I mean, we're not going to see, ladies and gentlemen, a President Hickenlooper anytime in the future in these United States. It's not going to happen. But then it gets even better. And I can't make this stuff up. I'll just let you listen, ladies and gentlemen, and let you decide.
You went to see an X-rated movie with your mother. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you so much for that question.
Anytime.
I thought it was better to write a book to let people really see who you were and the dumb things you did as well as the smart things.
And where is that on the spectrum?
On the dumb side.
Okay.
I was the youngest of 4, and as I said, my dad died right after I turned 8, and my mother and I had a pretty tempestuous relationship. She was just the most amazing person. And when I went off to college, and for the first time, she was alone in the house. And I didn't realize how powerful that was until I got home at Thanksgiving. And I called a friend in Philadelphia. And these were I didn't know what an X movie was. We thought it was a little naughty, but we didn't think it was that bad. Again, you got to understand, I was 18 years old. And
Wait for it.
I came home, and my mother hated to cook. I mean, she was just a strong, powerful woman who got stuff done in her own right. And I got home, and she had this huge dinner laid out. And I said, I promised Jed that we would go to the movie theater and see this new movie. You want to come?" And it's an X movie. I don't know. And, I was sure that she wouldn't say no. I made a mistake. And she said, "I'd love to go," because she didn't want to be left alone in the house again.
It was a pretty famous movie, too.
So I took my mother to see Deep Throat. And to her credit, the first scene is... I didn't ask the question. But I will tell you that my mother was... I'm sure she was mortified, and I said repeatedly, "I think we should leave. I think we should go." And my mother was the kind of person that rarely went to a movie. She thought almost every movie would get on TV. Obviously not this one, but she really, once she paid, she was going to stay. And at the end, she knew that I was humiliated. And as we drove home, and you know how the dashboard in the old cars had that kind of green light, and I asked her, I said, "Well, that was some experience." And she says, "Well, I thought the lighting was..."
So, Governor Hickenlooper, sometimes you have to lie. That would have been an appropriate time to lie. But what this was, ladies and gentlemen, the trained eye saw right through this. This was the Democrat Party taking Hickenlooper out. And you're going to see this repeatedly over the next year. Just watch. We've already seen several. You saw the Democrat attack on the governor of Virginia, and to get the narrative off of the on the table murder that he was so calmly and methodically talking about. And it was absolutely brilliant, because we're not talking about either one anymore, and he's still in power, the lieutenant governor's still in power, and so is everybody else in Virginia. So you really need to watch. Whenever you see anything come out about any Democrat, this is civil war inside the Democrat Party. And attention to all of the people that are left in the GOP that really are serious conservatives. Don't say a damn word. Step back and let them destroy themselves. This is what they're doing, Norway.
Yeah. I'm kind of speechless. I don't know much about John Hickenlooper, but I find it a little, just to speak to the content of this, I find it a little incredible that he actually didn't know what an R-rated movie was. I mean, the guy is born in 1952, and I mean, it couldn't have been that much of a novelty. But you're absolutely right on your...
that wasn't an R-rated movie. There was no missing it. That was an XXX-rated movie in the 70s that was just barely legal. He knew what he was getting into.
Exactly. So, but you're absolutely right. Your point is well taken, because I too believe there is a civil war within the Democrat Party, and it is kind of surprising that not more of this has leaked out, because when you look at how the Democrat Party is run nowadays, I mean, the big wigs, they are blatant communists, and the up and running, they are, the Pol Pots of the communists. I mean, I don't doubt for a second that given half a chance, La Cucaracha, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and her gang, they would start murdering people if they had a chance to get away with it. I mean, these people, you see them throughout history. You saw them through the Russian Revolution. You saw them under the murderous regimes of Pol Pot. You saw them in Korea, in Vietnam. I mean, these are really, really bad people. They're evil people, and they're practically running the Democrat Party now.
They are, and they're telling on themselves. And frankly, it's going to be a test of America to see what we do with this. I have a feeling that we have enough intellectual minds that can articulate the absolute dead end of communism, and we should be able to turn this around. It's actually kind of like a last chance, because if we lose this one, with the advent of all these younger people that can't tell you when we fought the War of 1812, I mean, we got a problem. And they're going to keep on the good. There's some good things on the horizon too, though. There's a lot of people, a lot of young people are shifting over to pro-life, and that by itself opens up the door to a whole lot of other lies that are being told by the left. So I have faith, I do. And one of the reasons I do, you've heard me in the past get on the Gateway Pundit for clickbait, and I stand by that. That being said, the Gateway Pundit has some of the best breaking news in the world right now. You can't deny that. And in 2016, I'm going to give them a shout out. It's a self shout out, but I'm going to repeat it because I agree with it. In 2016, Gateway Pundit was 4th ranked conservative publisher. Since then, we've been banned and censored by Google, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Amazon, Pinterest. Still our numbers grow. I mean, that's a testament. There's people that are starving for the truth, and when there's a vacuum, when you see the meltdown, the total destruction of Fox News, this is only going to make these outlets and this outlet stronger. Now, I don't consider this a news outlet, but it's still opinion, and it's conservative opinion for the most part. So
yeah, well, I mean, they're Jim Hoft, who is behind the GatewayPundit.com, for people listening that haven't seen this before. He has done a phenomenal job. I'm absolutely in tow with you when you say that they have. And they're still using clickbaiting fairly much.
They are,
and that that bugs the heck out of me. But I think that younger people, especially today, they're so used to clickbaiting. They're just surfing around on the internet, clicking on things that looks phenomenal, interesting, outrageous. So I think maybe clickbaiting is a weapon conservative media should use to some bigger extent. I mean, it doesn't really matter very much, because when big dominating factors like Google take them off the search results, I mean, you can Google however much you want, you won't get them up in your search results. So I don't know. Maybe clickbaiting is a fair and square tool to use in the media war today, because that is what we are in. We are in a media war.
Yeah.
Like the president's speech you played just before the show here on WHBJ, where he says that media are just like any other influence group, any other special interest group. They're just like lobbyists. He is 110% correct. That is what media has become. Mainstream media, almost all of mainstream media today, they are fairly and squarely behind the Democratic Party. They are the propaganda wing of the Democratic Party.
And I've even heard some pundits say that the media is actually running the show and the Democrats are working for the media. And when you look at the relationship between the two, it's hard to figure out which is which. I would say another piece of news, I'm going off script a little bit here, but the Robert Mueller has turned over his report to the Attorney General, and everybody's saying it's over. It's not over yet. Don't pop the cork yet. We have to wait and see. Now, if you see it getting released to Congress or the public, then you will know that it's very close to over, because it is illegal. A lot of people don't realize this. The reason that the Attorney General is forbidden to turning over investigative reports if anybody is charged with a crime is because it does not give the due process to the accused. It cannot be released to the public or the Congress He could write a summary, but he can't release it if there is anybody charged in there because they never have a chance to fight for their name. So if you see quickly it being released, that tells you something, that there's nobody being charged with anything. So we'll have to sit and wait for that to happen. It'll probably happen on Monday, I imagine. If it was chock full of damning material, first, it would have waited until closer to the election. And second, it would never have been released in a Friday document dump. So there's
no, and the only thing that we know for sure is that the Attorney General has written to the minority leader. He's written to Dianne Feinstein, Gerald Nadler, and Doug Collins, and Lindsey Graham, which is chairman of the Judiciary Committee. So that is what we know, and you're absolutely right. But we've seen for weeks now leaks in the media saying Democrats, the resistance, they shouldn't get their hopes up. And why should they? I mean, President Trump has done nothing wrong. The criminals, as usual, are the Democrats. And I hope and pray that this Attorney General acts upon the Constitution of the United States and starts an investigation into Mueller and his cadre, what they have done in this investigation. We are almost 2 years in. It started back in May 2017. We're almost 2 years into the investigation. Millions upon millions.
25 million.
Yeah, and 25.
Yeah, $25 million for this.
$25 million. And they've trapped people into, lure them into their perjury traps and what have you not. It is time that a witch hunt like this is looked closer at, and with that, the FISA abuse we have seen in this case.
No question. And another thing that I touched on a little bit, I made the complete break from Fox News, I'm talking special report with Brett. Screw him too. I went and didn't watch anything yesterday. I watched basketball. And then tonight, I wanted to hear some news, and I said, I'm not going on Fox News, so I started, going around flipping around the band, and I actually played like 2 hours worth of One American News Network. Ladies and gentlemen, go there. I'm telling you, it's so much better. Where else could you hear that the focus of a lot of the investigative journalism at One American News Network on who was running this show is Joe Biden when he was vice president? I mean, it was a detailed report with a Washington attorney that explained Joe Biden's position in the National Security Council and other areas, and him being the man with the authority to give John Brennan the go-ahead. And I didn't hear that anywhere else, and it wasn't any fluff and marshmallows and things like that. It was straight news. I highly recommend. The report was by Jack Persebic. You've probably seen him on Twitter.
Yeah, I've followed Jack for a long time, and he is in the intelligence business, and he's a pretty smart guy. He gets around and he's using the same kind of methods you would use in military intelligence. I think it was in naval intelligence actually. He's built up a pretty impressive network of independent journalists. So yeah, I often go by Jack Posobic's Twitter page to see what's up with things.
Well, there you go. So give it a shot, ladies and gentlemen. You won't go back to such a joke. I remember it was Russia every day for like a year, and then it went to every other day, and oh my goodness. So and another thing that bothers me that I'm noticing in the last couple days, ladies and gentlemen, it is not a crime to call out John McCain for the traitor that he was just because he's dead. I see these people clutching their pearls, Britt Hume and even Representative Crenshaw. You know, I tried to get with him. I hope he saw what I had to say, but I was going through to try to back my claim up, and YouTube scrubbed all of the John McCain videos with the POW situation. I'm telling you, I had to go deep into my archives to find something on my own website that was still left of Bob Dorn and B1 Bob and Senator Smith, how they had this guy figured out. And no, John McCain is not a hero. And even if he wasn't the famous songbird, which he was, even if he wasn't, look at what he did to the families of the MIAs and the POWs in the 1980s after the Vietnam War. What an evil skunk that guy was. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I would go as far as to say, just on that point, how he treated the families of the MIA, POW families is treasonous.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that is absolutely playing into the enemy's hands. And if that isn't treason, I don't know what treason is.
Can you imagine being a first lieutenant, maybe 24 years old, something like that? You know, you had to bail out of your F-4 or whatever jet you were flying, or whatever ended up made you get in the jungle in North Vietnam, and you're captured. And I mean, if you followed this situation closely like I did, and I went back and checked it again, there were numerous live reports of sightings of these flyers. I mean, they had extensive training to mark the land so somebody could see it from the air. And they had special codes that they would use, and they used them. And I saw photographs of this stuff. And John McCain and John Kerry sealed it forever. Now, I don't know if sealed it forever is a literal term, or if somebody else can get in there and unseal that stuff, because if you do, I'll bet you're going to be surprised. And John McCain came from a line of two admirals, you know, and he failed. So anyway, that's that. And I just got off topic a little.
No, but I totally agree with you. And when you see the treatment these prisoners of war received at infamous places like the Hanoi Hilton and places like that, absolutely horrifying. And John, I mean, who could wish for a better friend in the U.S. Congress than John McCain when you're a communist?
And it should be the other way around. I mean, he was an officer in the Navy. He should be the guy that's fighting for these MIAs.
Absolutely.
And the part that was really tragic about it, it's too late now. I go to the VA all the time, and I see Vietnam vets, and they're getting old, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just saying. But back then, in the mid-'80s, there was still a chance to save these boys. You know, and there was evidence, and there was, you know, grid coordinates and things like that. And man, I just can't imagine being one of those guys turning 50 in some camp, you know, if you live that long.
If you live that long, exactly.
Yeah, wow.
And you're absolutely right. When the shit is going down, you want someone, a brother next to you to back you up, you know, to back each other up. And then you have a weasel, a traitor like John McCain. I don't care if the guy's dead. I mean, the guy was a traitor, and it's absolutely sickening to see so-called conservatives circling the wagon for this weasel.
Mitch McConnell, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Absolutely.
You just really should be for the things that you said. What a fake. What a fraud. That, you know, that is a microcosm of Washington, D.C., is John McCain. They ought to name the office building after him. They really, and then they ought to paint it yellow. You know, but
exactly, canary yellow.
There you go. Now there's some good news coming out. Another feature on SteelCityResistance.com, ladies and gentlemen, is Operation Senate Purge, and there I've developed a spreadsheet that shows the 12 Republican senators who spit on us when they voted against the president's emergency declaration at the southern border. And they're all there, and there's 4 of them, 3 or 4. There's 4 of them that are listed in red, and those are the easiest ones to unseat in 2020. And Roy Blunt is one of those 4. Turncoat Senator Roy Blunt disinvited from Missouri GOP dinner over vote against Trump border emergency. That is big, it's huge, and it's something that we should exploit. So if anybody's listening from Missouri, it's time to put the hammer down on Roy Blunt. Roy Blunt needs to go. So if there's anybody out there, I would suggest any replacement for any fake establishment Republican communist be a combat veteran. I want combat veterans in these positions. They can bring the communists, the AOCs. Oh, and by the way, we need to start calling her Cortez. That's her name, Representative Cortez. Or Cucaracha Cortez. Don't use Alexandria or Ocasio. It's something about the naming conventions in Spanish, but I'm telling you, it pisses her off when you call her Cortez. So that's all I've been calling her. And I make sure you put her handle on there too, so she gets it. At AOC, and call her out as Cortez. That's all she is. But they can bring them. We can bring vets. So if you're in Missouri and you're a combat vet, it's mission time, baby. Pennsylvania, Kentucky, too.
Absolutely.
So go check it
out. What a fantastic move from the Missouri GOP here to turn down this. He's a traitor. I mean, when you look at what's going on at the border, when you look at the numbers, when you look at the tragedies, when you look at the suffering that these communists are once again are churning people through the meat grinder, and then you have an idiot like Senator Roy Blunt of the so-called Republican Party voting against President Trump and his border emergency declaration. What a weasel! Another one,
and not only for the substance of the vote, although that's hugely important, but you morons gave the Democrats a win. Why would you do that politically? You're supposed to be politicians. You're supposed to understand the way this game is played, and you got played. Nobody in the Republican Party except for Bill Kristol is proud of you morons. And that goes for you too, Rand Paul. Your career's over too. Many times.
Never cast your vote for a uniparty member. I mean, you got to investigate. You got to check up on these people. You have to go back into their history before you cast a vote for them. And when you come across something that is alarming, please let other people know. I mean, use the hashtag Cold War Radio. We check that hashtag regularly. And I'm actually thinking, this is a little on the sideline here, but I'm actually thinking that Monday's show, when we're doing Cold War Radio, I will pick my story from what you guys share on the hashtag Cold War Radio. Oh. So if you want a chance to have your of course, I'll mention who tweeted this or posted it on Gab. If you want a chance to share some news with the Cold War Radio WHBJ audience, use the hashtag Cold War Radio.
All right, there you go. It might get a little tight this Monday because I didn't tell Norway yet, but we have a special guest on Monday is Brian Colfage, the mastermind behind the grassroots crowdfunded border wall campaign. So we'll have him at 8:30. But we have still 9 to 10, so we still have plenty of time to do that because I have been warned by my communications director, you cannot go longer than 30 minutes on this interview like you did with the other ones. So I've been warned. My knuckles have been slapped, and we will keep it to under 30 minutes.
Okay.
And you know, a lot of that.
I mean, that is an interesting guy, and I'm really looking forward to it. So people, use the hashtag Cold War Radio when you're sharing with the world that you're going to tune in on Monday to listen to our interview with Brian Colfage, the man behind the Trump, the private, so to speak.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting thing. He's been through a lot of turbulence, but anybody that gets over the target in this day and age gets turbulence. So we'll see what happens there. Good deal with Blunt. All right, now let's get into some things that are getting very serious. You hear people, my contemporaries, I mean, people that I talk to, and they cringe when the president says some of the things he says. And I can't relate to that because for the last 30 years, I've been cringing when Republican presidents didn't fight back. And now to finally have a street fighter, it makes me so proud. I mean, when I saw Acosta and some of the other ones about a week ago, just heckling the press secretary and even the president a little bit. I mean, asking the same exact question over and over and over again. Do you think the Democrats hate Jews? Do you think the Democrats? Of course they do. Didn't you just hear them? You just played what they said. You just played the results of their vote. And you have to ask that question. How stupid are you? And
yeah, exactly. I mean, look at the Nazi past of the Democrat Party and ask yourself, does Nazis hate Jews?
Right.
There's your answer.
And let's listen to the president. Man, it is so refreshing to me, ladies and gentlemen, for a man to just answer the damn question.
Idea about the Mueller report. I'm going to Florida. We have meetings with the 5 Caribbean leaders. That'll be at Mar-a-Lago. We have a lot of other meetings set up for this weekend on trade. We have a lot of talks with China, and a lot of things are happening. We'll be doing it from Florida, and a lot of very important things are happening. Yeah.
And you said Democrats are anti-Israel and that they're anti-Jewish. They're all skipping the AIPAC conference and you're not going as well.
The Democrats have very much proven to be anti-Israel. There's no question about that. And it's a disgrace. I mean, I don't know what's happened to them, but they are totally anti-Israel. Frankly, I'm Jewish. Yeah, we're being very, very strong on the border. The number is enormous of people that we've captured, people that we've apprehended, but we're going to take care of it. We are being very, very tough at the border.
President Trump, attention White House. I don't care who says what, where, what context it's in. Never walk that back. Never walk that back. It is the truth, and we are going to force these Nazis to wear it, Norway.
Absolutely. And I am really, I'm so thrilled about President Trump. Like you said before you played the clip, he is a street fighter. And that's exactly what conservatives need nowadays. We need a street fighter because the opposition, the beefsteak Nazis, brown on the outside and red in the middle, like Trevor Loudon used to say, they are the opposition now, and they need to be defeated. And you can't go to find English tea parties, lift finger and chatting in a civilized manner. You need to pummel these assholes, pardon the expression, like President Trump is doing 24/7, 365, and talk about divine intervention when God put that man on the presidential stage.
I agree 100%. I mean, when you look at and I don't want that to sound cultish because I'm not, but if you put yourself in his position. I mean, you talk about time to chill out and relax. You got a beautiful family, a lovely wife, all the money that you could ever want, great kids, supportive kids, and yet you put yourself into this cauldron of sewage. It's amazing to me. It really is. Now, let's continue along that same thought and listen to. There's an event coming up. It's called AIPAC, and it's basically it was a nonpartisan group and event for decades. I mean, all kinds of. I'll let them tell you.
Well, breaking this morning, a growing number of 2020 Democratic hopefuls will not attend a major pro-Israel conference known as AIPAC, amid calls for a boycott from the progressive group MoveOn.org.
Another sign of a growing anti-Jewish stance in the Democratic Party.
Let's talk to the senior counsel for government and international affairs for the American Center for Law and Justice and member of the Trump Advisory Board, Jeff Balaban joins us live. Jeff, good morning to you.
Good morning.
It wasn't that long ago. Hillary Clinton went to AIPAC. Barack Obama went to AIPAC. Why now is MoveOn.org coming out with this poll that says 76% of the people who took the poll said don't go to the Democrats?
Yeah, this is extremely troubling. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that all the people you mentioned also said we need to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. And then when Donald Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem, not a single Democrat showed up. They all boycotted it. Everything is moving to the hard left.
Those are the Democratic candidates who are not going to show up.
Yeah, and this is truly reached a crisis level where now virtue signaling on the left means not to say we support Israel, or now they're trying to use different explanations for it. Even Ilhan Omar is trying to use different explanations for it. They keep on moving that bar. Oh, we like Israel, we just don't like Likud. We don't like Bibi Netanyahu. We like, but we don't. They've gotten to the point now where if you can't come to AIPAC, the most centrist organization, where everyone has always gone with this, the common denominator across the board, what you're really saying is we don't support Israel anymore.
Is the Democratic Party in trouble with Jewish voters? I mean, this stuff, some of these comments from Omar, you don't see anyone on the left. Where's Chuck Schumer? I don't see him speaking up, saying anything. Is this going to, when it comes time for Jewish Americans to get out and vote, are they going to vote Democrat with all this going on?
So there's long been two Jewish votes, really. It's just like there used to be an Irish vote and a Catholic vote, and now we talk about a Catholic vote, not so much about an Irish vote. So there are Jews who think of ourselves as ethnic Jews and Jews who think of ourselves as faith Jews. The faith vote is strongly with the Republicans and strongly with Donald Trump. Anyone who's voting on a Jewish issue is voting for Donald Trump and the Republicans mostly already. Not everyone, but the majority, and we'll see that grow. Then the Jews who basically say, we're ethnic Jews, they've voted like more like sort of Irish in the sense that they've melded into the general populace. And they're not voting on Jewish issues, and they never vote on Jewish issues. And when the Democratic Party says, and those who are leading the Democratic Party say, oh, the Jews are going to vote for us anyway, don't worry about it. Well, those people are going to vote for them anyway, no matter what they do. That's a problem. The ones who vote based on Jewish interests, they're not going to vote.
It seems to me there's an even bigger issue than pure politics, which is our relationship with Israel is important strategically, obviously our key ally in the Mideast. Why is MoveOn.org, this far left group, basically dictating American foreign policy and our approach to Israel?
That's a fantastic question. And, well, let me tell you, right now who's dictating foreign policy is Donald Trump, and he's been amazing. And the reaction on the left has been to push away things that have been across the board agreed on right and left for decades. But it is clear that Donald Trump has been so positive that right now the Democrats have moved on the other direction, as though it's despite Trump on issues that they agree on. But I do have to say one thing. You introduced me as on the advisory board for Donald Trump, and I have been. But on this issue, recently I took a leave. I'm no longer there now because I'm launching Jexodus, which is the Jewish Exodus movement from the Democratic Party. And we are getting response, Reform rabbis, ultra-Orthodox Jews, LGBT, young, old, men, women, saying, that's it. We've had it. We want to join with you.
Have you heard from Chuck Schumer to Jed's point earlier?
Actually, it was your point. You brought that up in the break.
What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's a disaster. Chuck Schumer calls himself the Shomer, the guardian of Israel, the guardian of the Jews. It's a play on the Hebrew word. And he has been silent, and people are upset.
Jeff Balaban, appreciate you coming in. More
Thanks
Fox
so
and
much.
Friends. Just moments away.
So there you go. And this is something that I think the president is very effective at. He should do it in public. He should do it to every Jewish Democrat congressman or person of circumstance in D.C. And call them out and say, hey, Chuck, is your rabbi cool with that? Are you guys, what's going on?
And absolutely. And it is really sad that so many, like it was said in this interview, that so many, so many Jews are keep on voting for the Democrats. Dennis Prager, one of the most prominent Jews in America today, the man behind Prager University, he said I think it was a speech in a synagogue in Los Angeles or someplace out in the West Coast. He said that maybe it was in that speech. I don't remember. I watch his fireside chat regularly, so he might have mentioned it there. But anyway, he said at one point that Jews are very religious people. All Jews are very religious people. The problem is that those Jews that leave Judaism, they change Judaism for socialism. And that is really tragic. And that was one of the things that inspired him to start Prager University, is actually to teach people in general, but Jews especially, about conservative values. Because, the leftist communists, they've gotten their claws into the Jews because throughout history, throughout the Russian Revolution, there have been Jews very prominently placed in the Communist Party. But when you look at what it did to Jews that were faithful to their belief in the Soviet Union, they were hounded just like any other political opposition. They were killed. They were sent to the gulags. They were killed just as any other. And some will actually. The Jews were singled out and persecuted more than the regular Russians.
They were, for sure. I mean, growing up in the city of Pittsburgh, I mean, we have a large Jewish population here and many synagogues. And I remember growing up, there were these giant banners that they would wrap around the top floor of these buildings. And I mean, really big ones. And it said, "Save Soviet Jewry." And I mean, it was all over the city. I mean, these were on every mosque, "Save Soviet Jewry." I remember that because Jewry isn't really a word that we use a lot. And I had to ask my mother what it was, and she explained it to me. But, yeah, we're going to have to watch this. This is something else.
But isn't that the irony of history, Hutch? You have, obviously, a strong community in Pittsburgh, of Jews, but you have Jews all over American society. They've contributed enormously to the Judeo-Christian growth of that new nation that America is, and they were persecuted horribly by the communists, and now they're actually touting communist ideals, a majority of them, through the Democrat Party. Isn't that amazing?
It is, and I'm going to talk to Mona. I'm going to get a friend of mine on here. His name is Evan Sayet, a Jew, and he has a very detailed explanation religiously of why this happens. But I'll wait till Evan comes on to explain it better. He wrote a book about it, and it's pretty compelling. And he brings a lot of. He's a comedian too, so he brings a good show. He really does, no question. Let's go. We got a couple more clips here. I want to go to Alan Dershowitz on this Comey investigation and how he is starting to change his tune, as a lot of people are.
Let me ask you about Jim Comey.
Absolutely did, and I had an opportunity to talk to the president a couple of weeks ago about this and to explain to him how you don't give back a battleship that you've captured from an enemy who's going to use it to fire at you. And the Golan Heights is a battleship, and you don't give it to Syria and Iran. So he did the great thing, and congratulations to him for doing what other presidents should have done first.
They should have, and it shows once again he is bold. He keeps his word. But let me go to this issue. So we know he signed the first warrant. We're told by Nunes and Grassley and Graham the bulk of information in that application was the phony Clinton paid-for Russian dossier that Steele doesn't stand behind. Then in January, well, that would mean what Rod Rosenstein said, there are consequences if you don't tell the court. He didn't tell the court she paid for it either. Is that a fraud on the court? And why 3 months later did he tell President-elect Trump the opposite?
I think it is a fraud on the court, and I think the court ought to look into holding the people who misled them in contempt. You know, the court is a trusted institution. They handle these applications ex parte. There's no opportunity for the other side to present opposing points of view. And so they depend on the credibility and the honesty of people presenting these warrant applications to them. And I think they would deceive. They should have been told the source of this material. They should have been told that even the person who wrote it doesn't now stand behind it. And they were misled. I don't think they would have granted that warrant if they had been told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
It's a lie by omission, Pam Bondi. How important a detail is it that Hillary paid for it and they didn't put that in there? How important is it that he is saying he verified something that is totally, completely unverifiable?
Sean, it's completely relevant and important and crucial. And as Professor Dershowitz said, as a prosecutor, I've done many, many state warrants. And that's one of the most important things you can do as a prosecutor, because it's your reputation on the line. And you are swearing by affidavit what you were saying is true to the best of your knowledge. And I think Comey's in trouble. I think he's going on a very poor offense now, trying to play offense. He's in trouble, and I think Bill Barr is going to look at that. And again, we love the great men and women of the FBI, 99% of them. And it's these few that are doing a horrible, horrible disservice to all the great men and women.
I'm going to jump that back and say, let's say about 60% of them. There's a bunch of them that should have came out and told the truth to the American people. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I would say that the number seems to be lower. I mean, if these men and women of the FBI, if they are so great, they know what's going on at the top, and when they are silently witnessing this crime taking place without acting upon it.
I mean, you look at
they could organize. I mean, they speak with their colleagues. They know what their colleagues' feelings are, and they could act upon it. And
they could have leaked or something. I mean, when you look at what our forefathers did, what was it, 30% or less of the colonists joined in the revolution? You know, you look at there should have been more FBI agents. Your agency's forever tainted. I'm sorry. I have no respect. I mean, this is your country. This isn't just politics. This is taking over the government with a federal agency with guns and tanks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just it's sickening. All right, we're coming up into the presidential election, the primary decision-making process. Let's not forget, Norway talked about it at the top of the show. Don't forget Uncle Joe.
Despite losing in the courts and in the court of public opinion, these forces of intolerance remain determined to undermine and roll back the progress you all have made. This time, they, not you, have an ally in the White House. This time, they have an ally. They're a small percentage of the American people, virulent people.
67 million.
Some of them the dregs of society. And instead of using the full might of the executive branch to secure justice, dignity, the president uses the White House as a literal bully pulpit, callously exerting his power over those who have little or none.
So that's Joe Biden's playbook, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully nobody falls for it. He uses it every time he runs for president. He's run for president about 6 times, I think. He's gotten probably a cumulative 3% of the vote. The guy doesn't have a chance. But this is what he's going to do. He's going to use this kind of rhetoric, and he's going to put you back in chains. I mean, what a moron. What a played-out moron.
And I would say that if you are a black American and you feel some increasing freedom from all the fantastic things that President Trump and Ben Carson and that crew have done, and you want to keep that freedom, and you want that freedom to grow, and you want to really make the big bucks, you need to switch party. You need to vote for real conservatives in the next election, because this is, the we and them talk. What kind of a presidential speech is that?
Right.
The we and them. It's not a presidential speech. It is a speech about division, and that is what the Democratic Party is all about. It's divide et impera. It is divide and conquer.
It's their only hope.
And that And that's their own. If you are an American, you are an American, and you better vote in the interest of your country, not in the interest of these totalitarian, evil people that are running for president for the Democrat Party.
Nope, you're absolutely right. And along with that, the hope that is out there for Attorney General Bill Barr, you could be an American hero, sir. If you do the right thing, it's all out there. You don't have to do anything extraordinary. Just follow the law. Get yourself some good prosecutors that are on your team. I could make a case that you could make a RICO case against the media and the Democrat Party. I really think you could.
Absolutely.
And if it takes a couple infantry divisions to quell things, fine. You know, we got to get this back on track. And the Democrat Party has a long documented history of criminality. Kind of like these people. Ladies and gentlemen, your weekly jihad report. 25 jihad attacks, 149 killed, and that's going to be skewed a little bit here. 91 injured, 2 suicide blasts, all occurring in 12 countries. The religion of peace atrocity of the week. Nigeria, 280 Christians killed. And I had to go a little bit deeper than that because it wasn't called out anywhere else. 280 is a big number. From February through mid-March, as many as 280 people in Christian communities in northern and middle Nigeria were killed in attacks. Islamic Hausa Fulani militants and Boko Haram continue to attack Christians in the country. In 2018, there were thousands killed. Some of the latest misunderstandings of Islam on the 21st in Afghanistan. 6 people are blown up for celebrating the Persian New Year. On the 20th in Pakistan, a 17-year-old girl is honor killed by her quote-unquote conservative father. On the 20th in Nigeria, 4 farmers in a field make easy pickings for Boko Haram gunmen. On the same day in Pakistan, a student stabs a professor to death for anti-Islam remarks endorsing gender mixing at a party. On the 19th in Syria, Sunni snipers fire into a school bus, killing a 12-year-old boy and 8-year-old girl. And finally, on the 18th in the Netherlands, a strict Muslim with jihadi ties opens fire on strangers riding a tram, killing 3, including a woman. The religion of peace, ladies and gentlemen. One body at a time.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.
And ladies and gentlemen, I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. I've got my co-host coming out of the Reykjavik server, Radio Norway. We're going to come back and talk about New Zealand and the UK. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
BBC News Montgomery. The U.S. Special Counsel Robert Mueller has delivered his report into alleged Russian interference in the 2016 presidential campaign to the Attorney General William Barr. Mr. Mueller has been investigating whether there was any collusion between President Trump and Russia. Here's David Willis.
The contents of Robert Mueller's much-anticipated report have yet to be revealed. In a letter to the leaders of the House and Senate Judiciary Committees, the Attorney General, William Barr, who only took office last week, says the special counsel has concluded his investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election and matters relating to it. The special counsel's report is confidential, and Mr. Barr said he will now be reviewing it and may be in a position to impart the principal conclusions to Congress as soon as this weekend. The report is said to be comprehensive, and there is bound to be a clamour for public release of its conclusions. In his letter, Mr. Barr said he intended to consult his colleagues, including the special counsel Robert Mueller, to determine precisely how much of the report can be released to Congress and the public. I remain committed to as much transparency as possible, writes Mr. Barr. The White House said in a statement that it had not yet been briefed on the special counsel's report.
Senior Democrats are demanding that the full contents of the report be made public. In a statement, the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, and Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, insisted that the White House should not receive what they called a sneak preview of the findings ahead of Congress. The top Republican on the House Judiciary Committee, Doug Collins, said the Mueller report should be released without delay. President Trump has tweeted that he is reversing the additional sanctions on North Korea, which were imposed only a day ago. On Thursday, the Treasury Department imposed new sanctions on 2 Chinese shipping companies that it says have been helping North Korea evade international sanctions. The White House said Mr. Trump didn't think the latest sanctions would be necessary. Cases of cholera have been recorded in the Mozambican port of Beira among people affected by Cyclone Idai, which struck southern Africa more than a week ago. Cholera is spread by contaminated water. Here's Richard Galpin.
The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, or IFRC, says some cases of cholera are now being reported in the wake of the devastating cyclone. The head of the organisation, El Haj Assi, who's currently in Mozambique, said the extensive flooding caused by the cyclone had already created an overwhelming situation in the country. But waterborne diseases like cholera could now make it even worse.
BBC News. Hundreds of thousands of Algerians have marched in streets in many towns and cities on a 5th consecutive Friday to demand the resignation of President Abdelaziz Bouteflika. There are isolated reports of police using tear gas. The anti-government website El Khabar said the rain in Algiers had not dampened people's spirits. Another said that protesters rallied in the cities of Reliance, Oran, Bouira and Tizi Ouzou. Demonstrations began a month ago when the 82-year-old president decided to stand again for office, but they continued even after he said he would not contest a 5th term. The United Nations chief Antonio Guterres has ordered an action plan for the UN to support efforts to protect religious sites worldwide in the wake of last week's New Zealand mosque massacre. Speaking at a mosque in New York, he said people everywhere must be allowed to practice their faiths in peace.
Mosques and all places of prayer and contemplation should be safe havens of terror. Worshippers must feel safe to worship. Today and every day, we must stand united against anti-Muslim hatred and all forms of bigotry.
A man has attacked a priest celebrating Mass at Canada's largest Roman Catholic church as the service was being transmitted live on television. Video showed the man chasing Father Claude Gru around the altar.
All right, kill that. I got to find a new news agency. I'll tell you, I can't take it anymore. But just to remind myself why I love living in Pittsburgh.
You got to see Biden?
Yes, I did.
You can look at me.
Obama, 2012, he's going to win, baby. He's the man. Biden was down here, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
Obama!
What do you like most about the Obama administration?
That, let's see, healthcare. Yeah. And schools. And what else do I like about him? I like everything about Obama, basically.
What does it mean to have Biden out here walking?
Greatest day ever to have Biden here, man. That was the best experience ever in my life to see him in person like that.
What through your mind? Did you get goosebumps?
Oh, yeah. Big time, man. I love Obama, and I love Biden, too. Because Biden's all business. He's all business, and he'll tell you how it is, and that's why I love him so much.
I appreciate it.
And I love Obama! Yeah!
Man, I hope she works in a nuclear power plant right next to the plutonium. I hope that there's no more kids in that family ever. My God. They're all over the place, too. I'm surrounded by them. But
I feel for you, brother.
But that's only at 10:30 in the morning when they're drunk out at the St. Patrick's Day parade. And that was a few years ago, obviously. But I found that I played it when it happened, and I remembered it the other day, and I went searching, and I finally found it. And it cracks me up every time I hear it. All right, let's get serious again, Norway. You're listening to Cold War Radio on WHBJ Digital Talk with Hutch Bailey Jr. and Radio Norway. New Zealand women wear hijabs in solidarity with Muslims following mosque shootings. There's some serious stuff going on here. Let's listen to a clip.
Sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, the believers in their mutual kindness, compassion and sympathy are just like one body. When any part of the body suffers, the whole body feels pain. New Zealand mourns with you. We are one.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. That's as far as I can go. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.
Talk about idiots. And this is what's coming to the United States. You can bet your beeswax on it. The first clip we heard here was New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, a socialist that within a few days after the mosque massacre in Christchurch donned the Sharia hijab while praising the Prophet Muhammad and identifying her nation with Islam. The Prime Minister ordered the national broadcast of Adhan, which was what we heard here this Friday on TV, on radio, in the New Zealand Parliament and government buildings. There will be no escaping Islam's Adhan with Jacinda Ardern of the Social Democrat Party. And this woman is hailed like a great politician, a great stateswoman by her compadres in the Democrat Party in the United States. What a sham.
Do you know if she has children?
I don't know if
I was
she has
thinking of
children,
that. I was thinking of that. We talked about it on one of our previous episodes with the leaders of Western Europe being barren, and I just wonder if she's one of them too. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, but absolutely. She has absolutely no understanding for the future. And when she talks about when one part of the body is hurt, the entire body hurts. You know, I was thinking when she's talking about girls' clitorises that are cut off, was she talking about hands and feet that are chopped off according to Islamic Sharia law? Was she talking about heads being chopped off? What part of the body was she talking about? Well, she was, of course, talking about how the poor Muslims that have invaded her country has suffered under I want to see the facts on the table, but I would say that was a false flag attack. The attacker, he has expressed sympathies with the Democrats in the United States. He wanted to change politics, and boy, has he changed politics in New Zealand.
Did you see immediately what Hillary Clinton came out and said? I'm sure your next parlay is going to be about these guns. She came out immediately and praised the gun grab. And this is what the guy wanted. He said it right in his manifesto. He wanted to affect the Second Amendment argument in the United States.
Yeah, and boy, did he. I mean, there is horrible reading in the westernjournal.com conservative Tribune, the Western Journal, with the title, "At 2:59 p.m., guns were legal in New Zealand. At 3:00 p.m., a massive gun ban began with promise of prison or fines for anyone who wouldn't comply." And this is, talk about, when you look at this, from the terrorist action to the government action, the socialist government action, this looks like a really good scripted process. They have virtually disarmed the New Zealand population over following this radicals attack. And I would not be surprised if he was propped up by socialists somewhere.
No doubt.
My gut feeling says that this was a false flag operation.
I agree.
And watch out for the same in the United States. When it's this easy to change laws in a Western democracy like New Zealand, it isn't that hard in America either.
The only difference is that, and I thought about this extensively, and there's not, when you look at these arguments, there's a gauge that you have to use. If this happened, what would I do? And I know I think about a lot of things, and people in this audience think about a lot of things. But there's a lot of people out there, just as on the left, there's people out there on the right, and I meet a lot of them, that are well armed, and that will not go without a fight. There's just there's people. I don't want to disparage anybody, but there's people that will join this fight. Put it that way, and it won't be pretty, and the government won't win. I don't know what happens to the country after that, but
what troubles me, Hutch, is that I believe that if something went down like this, like 1,000 Muslims slaughtered at some event in Muslim Sota or something like that, and the federal government in the United States tried to short circuit the Second Amendment. Oh. I'm sure you would get an enormous blowback.
There would be blood on the streets. There would fire.
Yeah, and I think that people would actually march in the streets and maybe even march on Washington. But I think that what is a much more likely scenario is that you will have mass shootings after mass shootings after mass shootings, and for each of these mass shootings, they are tightening the news a little bit each time, taking away specific type of magazines, taking away specific types of sites, etc. And finally, you sit there and you're totally stripped. I don't think they can do that in one blow like they did in New Zealand with rifles. They've done this with so-called what do they call it? High-capacity magazines and all military-style semi-automatic weapons, all assault rifle. Assault rifle. What is an assault rifle? I can take a hunting rifle in Norway and I can assault someone with it.
I've got 2 rifles. A friend told me this. I've got 2 rifles, and one of them is an M4, except it's not an M4. It's a semi-automatic M4. Mm-hmm. And it looks like the black plastic monster. It's got all the bells and whistles and attachments and bayonets and flashlights and everything on it. And then I got a Ruger Mini 14 that is the exact same rifle, except the chamber, the firing is a little different. But it's just one solid piece of wood, and it just looks like it's the same capabilities at each one. So it's ridiculous. I don't think, although it is a threat and I'm paying attention to it, I don't fear it as much as I once did. I think that first of all, there's just too much of a culture. Now, I know we're girlying down our boys. So if you have any boys in your life, make sure you teach them to shoot. And more importantly, if you have any girls in your life, teach them to shoot too.
Absolutely.
And then they'll have a love and a respect for weapons.
Yeah, absolutely. Take them to the range, teach them safety. You don't want to have any mishaps, but teach them how to shoot, and teach them how to love it, because it's really fun shooting guns, hitting the target.
Sure.
And I've had a lot of fun shooting guns. So I even whooped a local village, with where the male population, they're like born moose hunters. And I came into this, they have this annual festival, and I cleaned the table,
Nice.
And I was hungover and everything, but I cleaned the table with the first prizes in the shooting contest.
Well, the thing about people in government, in leftist controlled cities, and power bases, like DC and New York, and they don't really understand the rest of the country. They don't realize that if they drive 5 miles outside of their city limits, that there are whole communities that are like you said. Now, obviously, they're not moose hunters, but they're deer hunters and they're bear hunters, and they're just everywhere. I mean, and these people are not going to, even aside from the Second Amendment and its true meaning, they're not going to let you take their deer rifle because it's the best possession that they own. And maybe their grandfather gave it to them or whatever. You're not getting that without a fight.
Absolutely. And I would say to people, I see the various state laws, especially out on the West Coast, is really insane. They're trying to tighten the laws. Don't give an inch. I mean, you have to fight this tooth and nail. It is written in the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution that you have a God-given right to carry firearms, and you should never, ever give. America, remember this, America is the grand prize of all totalitarian regimes around the world, whether they be Islamic or they be communist, and they would love nothing less. They would absolutely love to take America down, and they can't do that if the American population is armed to the teeth. So don't give an inch.
No, not 1 inch. And this, in New Zealand, this is one of the reasons that I feel that maybe we're not hearing the entire truth about this situation. I mean, Las Vegas still sticks in my craw. But you look, this happened last Friday, and with almost zero debate, and not even really an official vote by the House of Representatives in New Zealand, they pushed through this sweeping gun ban in record time, Norway. I mean, it was an executive action, essentially, that turns previously law-abiding citizens into criminals.
Absolutely. Overnight, law-abiding citizens were turned into criminals, and it was just a decree. It wasn't run by the Parliament in New Zealand. It was a decree from Prime Minister. We're going to take your guns away. And if you refuse, we'll throw you in prison or give you a hefty fine, So, and she said, well, the Parliament can vote over it later.
Unbelievable. I'll tell
That's
you,
socialism for you.
And you look at you look at some of the reports out of New Zealand, and it's always dangerous to look at video reports from anywhere like this because there's so many tricks you can use with the camera. Getting the close-up of 10 people and saying it's 10,000, things like that. But there was some demonstrations that there's a whole lot of people in solidarity with this in New Zealand. And it reminds me of here in Pittsburgh. I mean, we had the synagogue shooting, and you had the appropriate reaction. But then with this New Zealand shooting, you'd have thought it happened right here in Norway. The University of Pittsburgh and Carnegie Mellon University's Muslim student associations joined forces and had, I don't know if they had it yet, but they planned an event at Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Hall, which is a big venue in Oakland, a neighborhood of Pittsburgh. And I had to call out to the universities. I was like, do you know who these people are? And of course, I put a link to show who they were, but they knew. But they knew already, I think. I mean, maybe not. I asked them.
Maybe not.
I asked them, do you know? Are you ignorant of this, or do you support this? Al-Awlaki came from the Muslim Student Association.
There you go. There you go. And I mean, this is when you see the reaction around the world. I mean, front pages all over the world with local Muslims speaking out against the atrocity against their people.
Yeah.
I mean, this was 50 people killed by some socialist. Talk about 669 million they have slaughtered.
Right.
And that will balance things up. I mean, just look at the Cold War Radio is the home of the weekly jihad report. And Nigeria, 280 Christians killed from February through mid-March.
Yeah, video on Fox News later.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you see interviews on the front page of Washington Post or in Fox News or CNN or whatever talking with Christians about how their brothers and sisters are slaughtered in Nigeria? Do you?
It wouldn't. It'd be cut off the TV. They wouldn't even let you watch that. I mean, it's
there you go.
All right, let's take some calls. 412-206-6208. I know there's people out there that were probably waiting for that, so we will take your calls. Like I said, don't forget to be here on Monday at 8 p.m. For Cold War Radio while we have Brian Kolfage. That's going to be an interesting interview. You don't want to miss the show anyway, but anyway, just make sure you catch that. I have another topic that's disturbing, and it's especially disturbing because you're on the other line. And that is, and I'd like your opinion on this. I'm growing more and more leery about some of our historic allies in Europe. I look at the influx of these jihadist invaders by the tens of thousands in some of the Western liberal, might as well call them socialist European countries.
By the millions. I mean, Germany alone opened the borders during the Syria conflict for 2 million of them.
But then I see the permeation of this ideology into the governments. A story just came out. UK refuses Iranian Christian refugee because Christianity is too violent. But they allowed 400 ISIS fighters back home into the country in 2017. Now, what does that say to somebody like me that's sitting on this side of the pond trying to figure out what the hell is going on, and you've got all of our former adversaries of the Warsaw Pact that are protecting their countries and doing the right thing. And now you've got a few stand-ups like Berlusconi, or in Italy. I don't know if it's Berlusconi. Salvini, that's it. But by and large, this is what you get, Norway. I mean, this is what do these people think of the future? Do they think this is going to stop? Do they think that these Muslims are going to start having tea? They are having.
Yeah,
they will have chai, but
they're already having tea with the Queen and with the Prime Minister, and you know this is the terrible danger of the European democracies. Is that the majority always rules. And when Muslims become the majority because no one has spoken up against them, and the OIC, the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, really shrewdly has injected this ideology into the British society. I mean, what do you expect when Muslims now are in majority in London? Well, you get a mayor of London that is a Muslim, And that's just the start of it. I mean, you have so many. You have Hull, Manchester, Ipswich. You have so many cities that are following London. They are just a few months or years down the line. And to be honest, when you have someone that is touting Islam like the failed female Prime Minister Theresa May, I mean, what do you expect? I mean, when you have the Prime Minister at every opportunity, she's on the camera, she is licking their bleep, well, population is completely anesthetized to this, and I'm sad to say this because I know the very close bonds between the United States and United Kingdom. I'm afraid the United Kingdom they have lost,
and that's what basically the article stated, and it was by Jim Hoft as well. He basically says we lost Great Britain, folks. She had a great run, but she's gone, because you have to look at what's the remediation. How do you fix it now that it's here? There's only one way, and that's with troops. I mean, they're not going to leave on their own. You're going to have to force them out at the point of a bayonet. And at some point, they're going to call us.
Absolutely.
And I don't look forward to that.
Yeah, and the problem is that the majority now are UK citizens, and,
right.
And there is nothing in UK law that says that, you can start shooting your own citizens. Well, so there's the problem. The only way out of this is a civil war in Europe. And I pray to God that will never happen to America, because if it happens in America, oh boy, we're in big trouble.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's going to, but I'm not saying that we're immune by any stretch of the imagination. We are not, especially with our children, with their minds where they are. Okay, let's welcome Marlene. But first, before I welcome you, are you home yet?
I'm still in Kona. We won't be coming home till Wednesday, and I'll probably miss the show because of the time difference.
Okay, well,
anyway. That's life.
That lets me fix my introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, from Kona, Hawaii, listening to the program, it's Marlene. Hello, Marlene, and happy anniversary.
Hi. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Anyway, to my comments, I was thinking you were talking about the U.S. Department of Agriculture, how they should be the U.S. Department of Food Stamps.
Right.
I thought that was really good.
I was shocked. I was shocked. 15 years ago, when I saw their budget, 85% of their budget goes to food stamps, and we call them the Department of Agriculture. Give me a break.
Yeah, no kidding. Because I remember them in Awful Money. I remember that stuff.
Yeah.
Of course, now out here they have the Oregon Trail card, which is basically like a prepaid debit card for food stamps.
Yeah, that's all it is. And the thing about it is the politicians are so they lie. So you can't trust them, because if you listen when they have budget hearings or a farm bill or the USDA needs more money, they don't tell you it's for food stamps. Everybody's out there thinking that we're helping poor farmers buy milking machines or something. That's not the case.
Of course not. Switching gears here, I wanted to kind of give a shout out from Norway.
Sure.
That article you were tweeting about Soros and his friends and how they're in cahoots with the media and the Democrats to try to ruin Trump, even though he's still in office. That was a great article. Kind of long, but it was really good. And I was thinking, they're still doing that. This investigation's not over. They just want us to think it's over.
Yeah. Thank you, Marlene. That was nice. And it's not over. I mean, that is the general message that these totalitarian leftists have for the population. It's over. Mm-hmm. You can just relax. You can just watch your reality TV show or whatever it is you do with your life. Smoke some pot, have a great time. It's all over. It's nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, they are short-circuiting the U.S. Constitution by the NPV, the National Popular Vote, And now I saw it was mentioned that they're trying to stuff the Supreme Court of the United States with a given number of representatives for Democrat and the Republican Party. Well, guess how that is going to go? It is going to be taken over by Democrats, and there is nothing in the U.S. Constitution that says that the NPV is allowed per se, per now, and there's nothing in the U.S. Constitution that allows a coup of the Supreme Court. But look at it. They bucking for the presidency. They have taken Congress. When you have traitors in the Senate, like these Republicans that are tilting more and more to the communist side, well, yes. What's left? What's left is the Supreme Court, and that's their next goal. And I mean, you got to fight it tooth and nail.
Oh yeah. And the other thing you were mentioning, this is going on to the situation in New Zealand, how they wanted to take away all the guns. And then there was also something else in the Western Journal, updated from yesterday to today, where Bernie Sanders thinks it should happen here. Which is the same thing in New Zealand.
Oh yeah.
Here that they're doing in New Zealand. I'm thinking, come on, you freak. No.
This is good though. This is
it'll
good.
Happen, but
this is
Bernie. He likes the drought.
It's a good thing though, because now that's something else that a good conservative American patriot can hang around their neck like a millstone. But we have to do it in a way that educates the young and the dumb. You know, because they think it's a good thing, because most of them don't have a father, for one thing. And the ones that do, I guess they, never played Cowboys and Muslims or something. They should have when they were kids. But,
no kidding.
I mean, this is something, it's part of our DNA. And if you don't pass it on to your son, please eat a gun yourself. Because if we don't do that, the founding fathers told us that. Ronald Reagan told us that freedom and liberty are one generation away from being gone. And if we don't pay attention to our generations behind us, we don't deserve to stay around. And that's my opinion, and I mean that.
No, I agree with you. I do.
I think and we covered that extensively on Monday. History B and I laid out the David Horowitz Freedom Center and their plan to. Awesome. That is. I hope that people support that. Whether you have children in school or not doesn't matter. It's a question of saving America's future. That's what it's all about. And maybe if you can stop this K-12 putsch that they're trying to drive through in that part of the education system, then maybe you can start changing things in high school and in colleges into the future. So that is a very good place to start. Is the place they don't have complete control. So I would say to people that visit frontpagemag.com or the David Horowitz Freedom Center and grab a copy of this brilliant plan and contact your representatives and ask them to drive this through. Ask them to make this law in your state to stop the indoctrination of the young children.
I agree.
Thanks for calling, Marlene. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you when you get them.
Yeah, enjoy.
Okay. I will.
All right.
Give my love to your hubby.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, Norway, was that push as in push and pull, or putsch as in beer hall putsch?
Beer hall putsch.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to.
It is putsch is I think actually is adopted in English as an English word from the Nazi coup. I guess you use coup or coup d'état more regularly, but
yeah, we like to go with the French. I guess I don't know why, but we do.
Putsch, I mean beefsteak Nazis and their putsch in America.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. 412-206-6208. Phone lines are open. Let's just talk a little bit about some of the upcoming programming and some of the things that we've had already. For those of you that don't know, tonight we played History Unplugged, which is a good historical show before this. We're always open at 7 p.m., by the way. A lot of people don't realize that. We start operations at 7 p.m., 7 days a week, and we normally go to about midnight, 1, 2 o'clock, and then we, about midnight, and then we replay it all again, and then sometimes I get up in the morning and replay it all again. So there's plenty of material out there that should save you, in Marlene's case, if a time difference occurs or something of that nature. And we're going to get it. Rocky and I were talking for a while. We're going to get this thing rolling. It's going to take a few months, but we're going to get it. And look who we've got here in Norway. We haven't talked to this guy in a while. Let's welcome Artie from California. Hello, sir.
Hi, Hutch in Norway. Congratulations to Marlene. And I wanted to congratulate you on your on your show. It's fantastic.
Well, thank you.
And yeah, and that guy Douglas with his baseball genre,
that was good.
That was out of sight.
And it was funny because he always sends a tweet whenever we're playing his material, and he tweeted last night a GIF of a guy getting hit by a pitch out of that movie. It was hilarious, and I didn't have a whole lot of traffic at that time, so it stayed there through the whole show. And I'm sitting there watching this GIF. It was hilarious. But yeah, I think we have got 2 keepers from him. We really have.
Oh yes, sir.
I'm trying to see here so I get it right. We got It's Debatable, which is a great show, and he even stops in the chat room. That's an extra bonus. And he asked, what do we want to debate? And he asked, his other show is The Good, the Bad, and the Sequel, which Artie's referring to. He did Major League 2 last night, and it was hilarious. But he asked, what movies would we like to see us analyze? And I told him Dirty Harry. Get some of the Dirty Harrys out, boy. Do those. That'll be great.
That was a fantastic movie by Clint Eastwood.
Absolutely.
And the best part of that movie was that his co-pilot was sitting in the cockpit with him after they taxied the runways for about an hour.
Yeah.
He looks over at Eastwood and he says, "Excuse me, Captain, you know how to fly?" Yeah, and then he looks back at him and he says, "Never took a lesson in my life."
Nice. And see, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I love about the concept of WHBJ. It's you can't do politics all the time. It will kill you. You got to relax every now and then, and I think that's one of the biggest differences between conservatives and communists. You never see them happy, ever. Even the citizens, they're never happy. But we can be happy and turn it off once in a while. And I think that there's a lot of people. This is one of my philosophies. I think there's a whole lot of people out there that would listen to something like the sequel of Major League and, maybe shy away from politics as opposed to immerse themselves in it and never get the chance of hearing our side of the argument because all they have is what they see on corporate media. And I'm not just talking about the news. I'm talking about all the shows. I mean, you want to see Trump get bashed, turn on any sitcom. And it's just something we need to counter it. And I think this is our little way of doing it. If I can get a guy like you to listen to something besides politics, that's a win for me. Because not because I already know how you feel, but it just validates my thoughts that we bring people together with the culture. We don't try to push the politics on them. We just bring them in and let them listen. They don't have to. The door's open. It's not locked. And sooner or later, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't always a conservative. I changed when I was about 30, when I had my first son. And some things started, my responsibilities started changing, and the way I viewed the government changed. And that's the way it happened for me. And I know that happened to a lot of people. I know people that have changed just because of the advent of Donald Trump. You know, him coming forward, being a regular guy, if you will, although a very successful regular guy, you know, telling the truth and saying after these votes and this embarrassing, stand by the Democrats against Israel and the Jews. It's like, yes, they hate Jews. Didn't you just hear them? You know, and everybody else is going, well, you can't say that. We didn't mean that. Yes, you did. You just said it. You know, so I don't know, Art. I hope it works out. I'm glad you're enjoying the shows.
Yeah. One guy I'm trying to get from my old job in the Secret Service to come on your show.
Okay. I
would love to. Yeah, he's up in years, but he's pretty spry, and that's special. He's our saint.
Okay.
Secret Service Special Agent Clint Hill.
That'd be great. Do you know how to get in touch?
Oh yeah.
Do you know how to get in touch with Mona?
Do I know how to get in touch with her?
I'll send you something. Yeah, she does all that, and I'm not getting in her way, believe me. But I'd be glad to have him on.
Oh yeah. He, you know what was interesting before he joined the Secret Service? He was in the Army in communications.
Okay.
So you'd be able to really enjoy not only his law enforcement career, but I guess he was in Army communications.
All right. Both my brothers were, too. That's an interesting field.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Artie, you have a great weekend, sir. Thank you for calling, and please call back anytime. And I'll be looking forward to that interview if we can make it happen.
Yes, sir. I would enjoy it. And thanks for taking my call. And good night, Norway.
Norway. Okay, he must be having some problems. Thanks, Artie. Have a great weekend. Let's go to 804, area code 804. What's your name and where are you calling from, sir or ma'am?
My name is Regina. I'm from Richmond, Virginia.
Regina, how are you? I know you. What's on your mind?
Everything's going good.
You never miss an episode. I'll tell you. We love.
Yeah, I try to keep myself occupied.
There you go. How are you enjoying the other shows besides Cold War Radio?
Pretty good. Very good. Very good. It takes me a while because I tend to nod off at the weird times because I'm getting older now.
Yeah, me too. I can't even read a book anymore. I try to read a book. It takes me about 2 pages, and I'm nodding out.
Yeah, so that's my problem now. So I figured I'd give you a call and say, let you know that you got a person in Richmond, Virginia that's keeping an eye on the area up here.
Outstanding. And sometimes we need some help in Richmond. I had a shop down there at Fort Eustis. It's not in Richmond, but close to it. And yeah, a lot of stuff going on down there. Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, you want to talk to Regina. She's in the chat room every night. We love having her over there. There's a few people over there that are there all the time. And I really love you guys. And I really, really appreciate your support. Without people like you, I mean, especially when the WHBJ program first started, I mean, there was like 11 listeners. And you were one of them, Regina. And I want to thank you so much because it was a little tough at first. You know, when you have a show like Cold War Radio and we get the amount of people live listening and then you drop down to 11. It's like, why am I doing this? You know, but then you see somebody like you and Rocky and there's others, both Kens, and I don't want to miss anybody, Marlene, you know you are. But without you guys, especially at the beginning, like at 7:00, it's a little slow starting. That's why I wanted everybody to know that's listening tonight, because this is when our biggest audience occurs, and that's all 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Friday's not bigger than the other ones, but I want you to know we start. Yeah. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Plus I'm trying to wean myself off of cable.
Yeah, me too.
That's all I'm to do.
Me too. I'll tell you that Fox News, it's going to take me a while because I have a routine. I'm a military guy, and I have a routine, and I used to watch about the last 20 minutes or so of the 5, and then I would watch Brett Baer. But the other night, after this debacle with Judge Jeanine Pirro, and then seeing Donna Brazile as the headliner on Sean Hannity the very next night, that was it for me. I couldn't do it anymore. I said, you know, I'm not if I watch them, I'm supporting this. You know, and and I just turned it off, Regina. I turned it off. And I will say, though, One American News Network is good. And that's
I've been Chief probably knows this real well too, because I've been following Chief too, and me and the Chief have been having long conversations. I've been trying to answer some of his tweets and stuff like that, and I read it, and that's another thing that I do. I'm what they call a readaholic. So I spent almost all my days reading, afternoons reading, nights reading.
There you go. All right.
Yeah, so I'll be all over Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and right now I'm being blocked off of Facebook because I share a lot of stuff.
Me too.
And I share a lot of and I retweet, and Twitter has been messing with my retweets, so I'm trying to figure out ways around that. So that's what I've been doing.
You'll figure it out, and like I said, keep coming back. We love having you on the show. And you have a great weekend in Richmond.
Okay.
Regina, ladies and gentlemen, goodbye. All right, outstanding. Okay, running out of time here. I lost Norway, and then he came back in, and then he went back out. I don't know. All right, no problem. There he is. He's back again. We having turbulence in Reykjavik, or what?
No, it was actually a technical test to try to troubleshoot the echo problem we have. So, but it went horribly wrong and cut my microphone out. So that's why it disappeared.
Okay. Well, luckily everybody doesn't hear it or we'd be in trouble. So about wrapping things up now. So we got some problems going on in Western Europe. We've got New Zealand. You know what I said after I saw the Prime Minister did that? I sent out a tweet and said, if you live in New Zealand, the wolf is coming. Keep your eyes to the sea. Because you disarm that many people, don't think people aren't paying attention to that. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, seriously, do you think that if, let's say there's a copycat in New Zealand that wants to copy this terrorist action, do you think he will, shrug his shoulders and hand in his automatic weapons?
Oh, I know. It's ridiculous. And you look, all you have to do it, and this is the thing about, I don't know, man, about just us in general anymore. They continue to talk about gun control as being this massive way to peace, when right in London you can see what happens when you take guns away and there are still savages in the street. They'll just use something else. The stabbings in London are off the charts.
Absolutely.
They're like casualties in a war.
Stabbings, acid attacks, running down people with cars. I mean, if you had a gun there, you had a fighting chance to take out the driver or take out the knife attacker or the acid attacker. But no, you don't have a gun. You don't have a knife because that is also illegal in the UK now. You don't even have your garden tools because the police in London, the Metro Police in London, they're rounding up people's garden tools. Jesus. I'm not kidding.
No, I know.
I mean, it is absolutely la land in the UK, and it is only going to get worse. And God save America and the Second Amendment, because that is what stands between you and total mayhem over there as well.
And it gets even worse than that. As you're laying on the ground all bloodied and you jump up and you scream at the guy as he's running down the street, you're going to go to jail for hate speech.
Yeah.
You know?
Not kidding.
No.
I mean, yeah, exactly. And you know, in America, the First Amendment protects the Second Amendment, which protects the First Amendment. So you have a perfect circle protecting the most basic rights of people to defend themselves and their country.
Absolutely.
Right. You don't have that in the United Kingdom. You don't have free speech in the United Kingdom anymore. And you don't have anyone with weapons that could, you know, march down to Downing Street number 10 and say, Prime Minister, it is time. You know because the only guys with weapons in London are the Muslims and the police.
And the police don't even always have them. I'll never forget that video clip in England when I think it was England. It might have been France. I think it was England, though. But when the two cops were out there and the jihadi comes up, knocks the cop down, and walks up to him with an AK. Cop has no gun. He's down on the ground, walks up to him with an AK, and blasts him in the head. I'll never forget that video.
Charlie Hebdo attack, I think.
I'll never forget it was. I'll never forget that. And I remember thinking, the sorry son of a bitch that's up in that balcony with that camera, if that would have been me with any one of my rifles or shotguns or pistols, I'd have killed that guy in a heartbeat. He'd have been dead before he knew what hit him.
Absolutely. And that is the big problem here. I mean, in the Christchurch, New Zealand massacre, it took police more than 15 minutes to armed police to arrive, you know.
Damn, that's like Detroit numbers.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, in Norway, it would take up to hours because we're such a big country and have small city centers. And here is a really, really sad story from Norway. Just a few years back, we were such a peaceful society that the police didn't have weapons.
Right.
You know, if something serious, and I mean, that was serious, it was talked about for weeks. If something serious went down, they had to drive back to the police station, log out their weapons, and then drive back to the scene, you know. And it was really, really, really rare that it was necessary at all. And I mean, we're talking about a nation where Vikingdom pretty much was born. So it's not that we don't have a violent past, but you know, we have come together as a people. We're a young nation. We gained our independence in 1905. We got our first constitution in 1814. So we're a very young nation as European nations come. But we cherished our new nation and our new constitution and our new one freedom. And by the way, in 1905, when we wrestled our way out of the sweaty grip of Sweden, we did that by using rifles. You know, we have a militia. It is called the Frivillige Skytterkorps, which is a militia unit. They're very, very active to this day, you know, and they you know, it's target shooting, hunters, etc. But they were the armed forces that went to the Swedish border and said, hey, you better let us go or we'll start a war. And that was enough for Sweden to back off. And
well, there you go. We're about out of time, Norway. So final comments and how can people reach you?
Oh, final comments. I don't know. It's Friday/Saturday. Winners and losers. We didn't do that, but I'll do it real quickly. My losers this week is Mike Cernovich and Theresa May. I mean, Mike Cernovich, what a loser. The winners this week has to be the GOP that booted out Blunt. That's the way to go. Support your president. I am at Norway for Trump on Twitter, Gab, and Facebook. And have a blessed weekend. See you on Monday.
All right. Thank you, Norway. My winner, Mr. Reagan, the brains behind AOC Part 2, available on SteelCityResistance.com. It's the post right before the show. And the loser is Zach Exler. It's not Chukabari, it's Zach Exler. Watch the film. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. Thanks, everybody. NRN tonight, Smith Radio, the Smith Cousins. Up next, stay tuned. True Crime Historian is coming after that. The end of John Wesley Hardin. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. on all social media outlets. Go to Red Elephant, ladies and gentlemen. Jacob Seals, American Dreamer. God bless Norway. We're gone.